So recently we've been seeing a troubling rise in incidents of violence among high school students. And in response, the National Secondary Students Council is stepping up with a violence prevention task force, while the restorative programs by the Ministry of Justice are designed to guide our young people away from harmful paths and toward positive change. Here to talk to us more about this, Chairperson for the Violence Prevention Task Force, Tariq Preddie, and Director of Child Diversion Branch of the Child Diversion Branch for the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Venisa, Clarke. Good morning to you both.
Morning, morning.
And thank you for being here. Tariq, let me start with you. What is going on?
Okay, all right. So firstly, thank you for having me. And before I move into actually answering that question, up to do that, I think it is quite imperative that the Jamaican people have a clear understanding of what the critical aim of the Violence Prevention Task Force is. In that, for one, it is mandated by the Education Act of Jamaica under the directive of the National Secondary Students Council. But it is to not only serve as an intervening act or a measure that seems to intervene due to the ongoing prevalence in violent activities that we are witnessing within these institutions, but moreover so as a mechanism for cultural reform within these institutions, because what we have observed with the long-standing culture of violent behaviours within these schools, and I say long-standing because the issue of violence within secondary institutions isn't something that is new. But with the advent of new digital media and with the advancements to technology, I think the documentation of it has become more widespread, and the public eye is more privy to these issues.
So do you think that is actually the case now? This has been going on at this level, on this scale, or is there some validity?
Yeah, I would think worse? I would think that the manner in which these acts are being committed has become even more egregious and vile, because we would have taken note over the course of the past 2 months, that is the National Council, with at least 3 incidents which would have resulted in students their lives being lost. And in the past, the case may have been where it was just fighting or simple brawls among groups of students. But with the proliferation of gang violence and gang culture within these institutions, where cliques of students form these social groups that tend to want to portray these unscrupulous behaviours, we have taken it into very deep account, and we think that it's a very serious matter. That needs
before Venisa, is this Arden?
Yeah, that is Arden.
Does anything like that happen at your school?
At Arden, no. We have an administration that supports our institution to the fullest, where we have matters of indiscipline arising. The relevant authorities, they play their intervening role, that being the prefecture and the Students' Council. We advocate for students who are affected by violence, because we think that in the midst of people being affected by violence, there is some approach that can be done to immediately curb the issue.
Okay. And an opportunity to ventilate it too. Yeah. Venisa,
go ahead.
You guys are looking on at the Ministry of Justice. What's going through your minds there?
That's my question.
Jigs.
So at the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, what we want, firstly, we want Jamaicans to understand that we have been working. The Restorative Justice Unit has been working in schools and across the island to help people to resolve conflicts before they escalate. So what we want to say is use our services. They're free and they're all across the island. So before it gets to a point where now it becomes an offense, where child diversion has to come in, we are saying utilize the services, call us in if you need to, so we can help.
And that doesn't happen now we have a fight at school. Then what? What do you guys do after you hear that?
So there are a couple of options. So we have social justice services in the ministry. So we spoke about restorative justice earlier. So if there's a fight, and for example, the incident that took place the other day and the young man was injured and the other person is charged, if both parties can come together and say, it was a fight and I want restitution for my medical bills and so on, but I don't necessarily want to go through the formal judicial proceedings or
court. Is that like mediation?
So there's the option for child diversion. Once the victim consents, child diversion now comes in, and while we utilize restorative justice as well to help them to see how your behavior impacted me and how I can do better next time, child diversion also looks at the root of the issue. So if you're committing an offense, are you extorting someone because you're hungry and not necessarily because you're violent? So we try to...
Same question though. So when you heard what happened with that fight, did you go there, or are you saying that when that happened, the school must get in touch with you? Or do you go and say, I read that something going on, bring them to me, make we talk about this.
So restorative justice is usually preventative, so they go into the schools before these things happen and they will do the restorative practice trainings. Those are to help students and teachers to de-escalate matters before they get to this situation. When it gets to this situation now where there is the possibility of a charge coming into play, child diversion isn't activated until the matter is referred to us, because we can only accept referrals from the police or the court. But victim services, they can come in and, you know, help with the trauma that was experienced and how to heal and to cope.
And when you say use our services, before we get there, what are those services that the schools can call Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs now and say, we want you in the schools to do?
Restorative justice. 1. Child diversion.
2.
We sensitize, and victim services.
Gotcha.
To help victims of crime too.
Okay. I'm coming back to you now, sir.
Okay.
May I come back to the first question? Let me ask you.
Yes, miss.
What's going on with our kids?
Okay.
What's happening?
What's happening on the ground? What we're observing, because based on the statistics that we have analyzed recently, we would have seen where, for instance, even the violence against children and youth survey, its most recent publication in 2024, and I'd assume that the figures are even exponentially higher at this specific juncture. But those figures would have suggested that at least 3 quarters of all youth aged 13 to 24 would have experienced some form of violence. And these youth, which, you know, many of them would fall within the high school system, the secondary institutional framework of Jamaica. What we would have found is that at least 3 in 5 young men would have been affected directly by some form of violence, which would have impaired their behaviors. And for the females...
In the home?
In home and at school. So generally speaking, right across the board, we're seeing where at least 3 in 5 in all youth in Jamaica would have been affected by violence to some extent. And for the females, it's at least half of them.
Well, where is that coming from is what I want to know.
The root causes of it, you know, it's hard to pinpoint the root cause for this, I guess you can say, egregious behavior to one specific issue. But I think it's a combination of factors accounting for all the things that students are encountering within their social lives. You know, the impact of peer pressure on a student, for instance, might hinder their, I guess you can say, relentiveness to actually not partaking in these violent behaviors.
Tariq, I'm so impressed with you already. But I'm sure you're not a perfect little boy. I'm sure you might be a little bit upset with a little teacher one time because you never get the mark that you're supposed to get, or a man might say something to you. So what do you do when you feel like you want to cuss off a little man because, or you know, like one in the class? What do you do?
Well, I think this is where the skill of conflict resolution comes into play. And it's something that we're advocating very much to incorporate within the curriculum of our various secondary institutions. Various advocacy groups that we're in collaboration with, the Youth Advisory Council, for instance, would have seen to actually making recommendations to various ministerial bodies and statutory agencies to get this done. But in relation to how I would go about resolving these issues, the skills of conflict resolution, they aren't quite hard. They're easy to catch on to. I mean, in practice, they might seem as though they require a lot out of you. But for one to actually not partake in these violent behaviors and somewhat try to find another way of responding and dealing with their issues internally, or through seeking counseling, through seeking some form of assistance from other relevant authorities.
Are you working alongside other ministries to effect some of the mitigating circumstances for this? This is a mental health issue at the core of it, Venisa. So the health ministry, what are the other stakeholders that you're partnering with to try and help this situation?
So we've always been working with the Ministry of Education. We also, as you said, the Health Ministry through the National Council on Drug Abuse, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Women's Centre of Jamaica Foundation. We've been working with psychologists across the island because we do know that as Jamaicans, as I said before, we don't name the feeling. So you might be feeling upset or you might be feeling embarrassed, but you don't say that is what you...
We hack it out. Yes, man.
And because we do that, we end up in situations that we didn't plan for, versus saying, this is what I feel and this is how it would help me if you did X or you did Y. So we're helping these young people to be able to do that.
You said earlier that they would, you know, you have to be asked to get involved.
Just for child diversion, because it's for children who come into conflict with the
How many
law.
times have you been asked to get involved since they started the year?
Since the start of the year, I'm not able to say, but I know we started in 2020 and we've gotten asked to be involved about 3,000 times.
Wow.
So,
3,000.
we're in a society where children are acting out and children learn by mimicking. And that is one of the reasons why we push for mentors who can give them positive influence, because if they're going to act on something, we want it to be positive and not necessarily the negative things that they're
go
seeing.
against the social media, Lord.
Would you prefer if you were able to jump in without waiting for somebody to call you?
So we do have entities and government bodies that deal with children who exhibit behavioral issues before it gets to us. So we do partner with them. They're a part of our committees and so on. So we know what is happening. It's just that our jurisdiction is once an offences committee. We step in to prevent them from going through the formal judicial proceedings.
Thanks for coming. Very impressed with you, sir.
Well done, Tariq. Please get in touch with the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs to find out how you can get them in your schools to start doing these programs, because our young people need all the help that they can get.
Chairperson for Violence Prevention Task Force, Tariq Preddie, and Director of Child Diversion Branch for the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Venisa Clarke. Up next, protect the Portland Bite Birch, as in B-I-G-H-T. We'll soon hear what is that. We'll soon come.